You'll often hear leaders, CEOs, managing directors of businesses say they don't just want managers in their business, they want leaders. It's almost become a cliche. You hear it so often that you tend to take it for granted. But it's worth it to stop for a little bit and ask ourselves, well, what does that actually mean? When someone says, I don't want managers and I want leaders. Now, sometimes you'll hear an explanation that stays at a pretty high level. So they'll say, well, the word itself should make it clear. I don't just want people who manage by numbers. I want people who are seen as more than that. And then at other times, you will have some pretty specific descriptions. So you will hear talk about not just people who are doing the job that they have right now, but are showing a willingness to think above and beyond it, and so on and so forth. And at Wilson Learning, we have long said performance on its own is possible to create in the short term, but in the medium to long term, it is almost impossible to sustain unless it is also accompanied by fulfillment. And what do we mean by fulfillment? Well, fulfillment really is the level of engagement, the level of satisfaction, the level of happiness really that people feel as they go through the work that they do on a day-to-day, minute-to-minute basis. And we found in multiple business and industry environments, real sustainable performance can be created only when it is accompanied by fulfillment. The leaders in a business, people who are not just managers, but who also are able to function as leaders, they distinguish themselves from people who are just managers by understanding the need for and showing the ability to create this balance by not just focusing on performance, but also focusing on creating and maintaining fulfillment. Well, at Wilson Learning, the framework that we provide to managers and leaders at any level in a business is what we call the framework of the 5 factors or the 5 leader manager practices. The framework helps leaders understand that no matter what your level of leadership is, your employees at any given point in time always have 5 questions in their mind. And in order for them to perform at work while also feeling fulfilled about the work that they're doing and the environment they find themselves in, they need to know that they can get the answers to those 5 questions from you if they need to. Now, those 5 questions are not necessarily always asked explicitly, but you can be certain that even if people aren't voicing them explicitly, those questions exist. So leaders who are able to show this balance of leadership and management consistently are able to do this by adopting and using what we call the 5 leader manager practices that help provide the answers to these 5 key employee questions. The first question is, where are we going? This is the thing that most employees may not ask outright, but do need a general sense of in order to perform effectively and happily, which is, where is this overall thing going? This organization that we're all a part of, what is the general direction in which it is headed? Can I get some clarity around that? And so the practice that good leader managers use in order to answer that question is what we call the practice of, when appropriate, setting, but all the time communicating the direction of an organization. The second question, the second key employee question is, what is expected of us? If I know the direction, the general heading of the ship, what am I expected to do in order to contribute to the effective running of this ship? And this is where good leader managers use the practice of communicating goals. The third question, how am I doing? All right, I know the direction, I know what you expect from me, so I've started working on my goals. Now, how am I doing? Am I doing well? Am I not doing so well? How do I know how to course correct? This is all about the practice of providing and seeking feedback. Question 4, what's in it for me? As I work, as I perform, why should I feel motivated? Why should I feel that this matters? What am I going to get? How am I going to benefit if I am able to deliver on the things that you expect from me? This is the practice of understanding and providing appropriate recognition. And the fifth and final employee question is actually a 2-part question. The more well-known part is, where do we go for help? And the full question with the unasked part added is, where do we go for help and is it safe to go there? Because almost everybody has had an experience at work where they thought they could get help from somewhere, they went there, and the experience was so bad that they resolved never to go back there again. So, where do we go for help, and is it safe to go there? And this question is answered by the leader manager practice of providing support in multiple different environments, not just within your own team environment where you have the authority to make things available, but also outside that environment. Now, when you think about direction, goals, feedback, recognition, and support, this can sound quite familiar. You can say, well, this is what leaders are supposed to do anyway. We've got all of this information. They know how they're supposed to talk about the company's vision, the company's mission, the strategy. They know how to set tasks. They know how to give feedback. So why does this become something that actually distinguishes managers and creates leaders? And this goes back to the core concept of performance with fulfillment. At Wilson Learning, we know that you can generate performance in the short run without fulfillment. But without that fulfillment in the medium to the long term, it is almost impossible for a leader to create and sustain performance from their people. Fulfillment, that ability to find enjoyment in, that ability to find happiness in, that ability to really find fulfillment, for lack of a better word, in the work that you're doing, and to find something beyond just the mundane nitty-gritty of the day-to-day tasks that you do. That ability, and the ability of leader managers to make that connection for their people, is really what starts to separate leaders from just managers. And in the execution of these 5 leader manager practices, we help participants understand what they need to do to not just be a good manager with this practice, but also to be a good leader. And so you are not just using the practice to create performance in your work environment, but also to promote fulfillment in your people, which is the only way of sustaining performance in your organization. That, in a nutshell, is how the leader manager and the 5 leader manager practices help organizations create and maintain better performance with fulfillment.